everybody, and happy Tuesday. It's Kathy Hester, and we're doing Plant-Based Chat, which is my favorite show of the week. So yay, because I get to bring really cool, interesting people that I like to you. And in real life, I'm very much a combiner and an introducer. And so I feel like this is really my personality in one tiny little show. Wherever you are, come and say hi. I'll see the comments to the side. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Durham, North Carolina. It's like in the 70s, which is weird because it was like in the 90s a couple of days ago, and a few days before that it was like 40. So I don't understand any of this. And Sophia Desantis is who's here with us today from Veggies Don't Bite. And Lydia says, hi, everybody. We're so glad to see you here, Lydia. You're such an awesome supporter. We met through Jenny Melrose, didn't we? I don't think we met anywhere before then. So Jenny Melrose.
Well, did we? No. Did we? I think we knew her before then, and then maybe we met, like we knew of each other, or I knew of you. And then like through the other groups, Facebook groups or something, or
it
just
could be a vegan blogger group because, and well,
Yeah.
also for a long time, or for a few years, I was doing PR for Page Street Publishing and some other authors. So I bet you I contacted you to do book stuff on your site. Chances are real good at that. But
we met in person with Jenny.
Yes, we met in person with Jenny. And Jenny Melrose, who you guys are wondering who the heck is Jenny and why don't you ever talk about her? She was my business coach, and she's now a dear friend. And I think the same goes for Sophia, because Jenny is awesome. So if you guys are interested in doing something like starting a blog or something like that, definitely check out Jenny Melrose. She's got a lot of real helpful tips. But Sophia was like the angel of food for me at a conference that Jenny did. So a lot of times at food blogger conferences that I go to a lot, you know, I'm vegan and now I have to be gluten-free, so sometimes I eat the snack bars I bring with me. But Sophia is also plant-based and gluten-free, and so she would run up behind, don't eat that one, I've got another one for you in the bag. And it was amazing.
Well, I helped Jenny with the menu because I'm a good friend of Jenny's, and when she was doing this conference, I was helping her with the menu because I was like, I need to make sure we all have something to eat because I get hangry and then I'm not nice. So I'm like, I need food, like real food. So
there's nothing nice about hangry.
No. Nope.
So what I like is, so Sophia is from like sunny California where all the veggies are. And I think I've never been to your house, but I think of this like perfect, something that would come out of like one of the reality shows that I watch about like real estate in California, because I see some pictures of yours. And it's just a beautiful house, beautiful produce. You have 3 lovely children. And okay,
lovely most of the time, but in my house is something my house is, I love my house. It's not super huge, but it's beautiful, and our yard isn't super huge, but we've done with it what we want, and it's lovely. And then the kids come in, and then it's not so lovely because it's like, you know, Tasmanian devils, how they like fly through places and leave stuff in their wake. Yeah, that's what happens.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. And I can imagine that. It's going to be like Max. I've got Max out and about, my dog, and so that means we're going to get 7 deliveries probably during this. So just know.
Probably.
Yeah, if you need me to mute you for something, just let me know. I can mute me as well. So, but Sophia has a very similar, I believe, a similar take on things. Like, I meet people where they are, and I think you do that too. So in like my Facebook group and on YouTube and all these other places, some people are vegans, some people are plant-based, some people are no sugar, oil, salt. I've got a little bit of everyone, and I kind of feel like whoever came to your house would be able to sit down and eat a delicious meal, right?
Totally. And I love to know like who's coming, because you know, there's nothing worse than going somewhere and not being able to eat anything, not only from the hanger perspective, but there's something about food. And I'm Greek by origin. I'm first generation. My parents are immigrants to the United States from Greece. And in Greek culture, food is love, and you show love by feeding people. And growing up, just like if you've ever seen my big fat Greek wedding, that's legit my family. Like, you're not hungry? Oh, good. I just made you a little something, and out comes the spread. I mean, that's like, it's like in my blood. Like, I always have to have something for somebody. And there's nothing worse to me than somebody coming to my house and not having something to eat, like not being able to eat something. It's like, it makes me feel like I have let them down in some way. So I always try to make sure if there's any allergies or preferences or whatever, that I have something.
I totally feel you. My friend Dawn, who's moving here with her husband Rob and son Finley, stayed for a couple of days because it's like big graduation here. So there's like Duke and UNC, and so the Airbnbs, they're waiting on their house to be ready. And so it's been funny because I'm like, I had a whole thing behind the couch just of snacks, so they didn't have to ask for anything. They just knew that they could have something when they wanted something, right? And then they had to go pick up the dog because we couldn't mix our animals. So we all had to, we all boarded the animals, and then Sunday we're all getting everybody back. And so they had to drive an hour to get the cats and then another way to get the this. And so when they showed up in the driveway, I gave them food to take home so that they could just eat. Right? And to me, that sounds like something you would do too.
Definitely.
Well,
definitely.
Tell us a little bit about you, your background, anything that you want, anything you would love my audience to know.
Totally. I love this. So back in 2010, I had my first son. We struggled with fertility for about 3 years to have children. I was young at the time, so it came to, a shock when the doctor's like, your eggs are old. I'm like, oh, that's nice to hear. So we tried for a really long time. I went through 3 rounds of IUI, 4 rounds of IVF, and countless surgeries and all the things that I saw. A naturopath, I saw, acupuncture, and long story short, we did our 4th IVF was successful. And so I was actually a teacher at the time. I am a teacher by trade. I have a master's degree in education. I taught special education for 7 years of my career. And then the last 7 years I taught first grade. So I was teaching at the time. And then very quickly, as a surprise, I've had 2 surprises in my life, but as a surprise, I actually got pregnant again naturally 3 months postpartum. So my first 2 boys are 15 months apart. And that is when I decided to retire from teaching because I had 2 babies. My husband had just gotten a new job traveling every single week. So it was just a lot of stress happening in our family, which prompted me to stop teaching and stay home with the boys. But at the same time, my husband, who was on medication for his blood pressure his entire adult life because it's genetic in his family, his medication stopped working and his blood pressure was all over the place. He felt terrible. So he went to a new cardiologist that I had actually gone to during pregnancy because I had some heart palpitations and stuff. And he was lovely and close to us in our new home. And so he went there and the doctor says to him, he's a very well-known cardiologist at Scripps and Sanitas here, and says to him, look, we have a few options here. We can up your meds. We can try different meds. He goes, or I treat a lot of my patients through dietary changes. If you're interested, no pressure, let me know. But if you're interested, you want to watch a few documentaries, here's some documentaries, no pressure. He's very no pressure. And so my husband actually, I didn't know this at the time, but he watched Forks Over Knives. And I will never forget the day I was like lying in bed breastfeeding our second son. And he comes up to me, it was in the morning, and he goes, I want to go plant-based. And I looked at him and I was like, what? He's like, I want to go plant-based. And I kind of laughed actually because he's Italian. He's like meat and potatoes Italian. And we considered ourselves healthy. We were not, quote unquote, unhealthy by any means. We ate lots of vegetables, fruit, whatever. But he said, I watched some documentaries. I talked to my cardiologist, and, some people just can't process animal products the same. And he would like to help me through dietary changes get off medication. And I was like, all right, well, if you're doing it, I'm doing it, because he can cook toast and pasta, and that's about it. So, and I was postpartum as well. And I had back-to-back pregnancies with 3 years before my pregnancies, IVF and IUI, which pumps me full of drugs. And I felt terrible, postpartum was very, very hard for me emotionally. I just felt awful. And so I was like, you know what? A change sounds great. So we completely changed our diet. We did a 21-day elimination diet is what we called it, because in my husband's business world, it takes 21 days to create a habit. So that's what we did. And at the end of that, we both felt so good that we decided to venture into the plant-based journey, very slowly. And even today, we don't abide by any, food rules, or we don't say we're anything 100%. We do what our body, feels like, because we're into this for the health purposes. And 3 months into this journey, my husband was off all his medication. He had lost 30 pounds and just felt incredible. And this was my son at the time, who was the baby I was breastfeeding, just turned 10. So this was 10 years ago. And he still is doing very well. There's some ups and downs, but the downs happen to be when he has a cardiologist checkup right after like a week-long vacation in Hawaii, where we've been drinking and eating fries for like 7 days and not doing any exercise. So
that gets all of us. Just
yes. So
yeah. I think that's the hardest part, is like, you want to plan your doctor's appointments where you really will find out the real things. But I think it's almost just equally bad to go, okay, I'm going to be perfect 30 days before I get all my blood tests, or I'm going to go on vacation.
Right. So, but in general, he's excellent. He actually just had a checkup last week, and everything is great and perfect, and, for 10 years. And so throughout, what happened was, when we first changed our diet, I had to recreate all of our favorite foods, because we love to eat. We aren't like, I'm going to eat a salad and a little tiny salad and be like, when our first date with my husband, he was like, "You're eating like a real meal." I'm like, "Yep. Unfortunately, you're not dating a girl that you're going to get away with buying a side salad for and be done. I like to eat." So we like to eat, we needed to recreate our favorites. And I am I was pre-med in college, so I have a very strong science background, but I'm also, what my mom says, very odd, because I also extremely artistic and creative. Mm-hmm. And so both sides of my brain fire at the same time. And this journey is actually perfect for me, because I believe recreating things plant-based, gluten-free, it's a science, and it's also a creativity. And so that's kind of how my business was born. Veggies Don't Bite, is I started recreating all of our favorites. And the first probably 5 years or so, it was really just kind of a side gig. I made a little bit of money here and there. But then when I met Jenny Melrose, what we were talking about, my business coach, like, that's when I turned it into a real fledged business. And now I sell, products that I've created. You can go to my site to see all my ebooks. I published a cookbook in 2017. I am now fully gluten-free, because I actually, believe it or not, went through early onset menopause in my early 40s. I'll be 45 in July, but I am post-menopausal. Probably that had to do with all my hormone issues when I was trying to get pregnant. There's a connection there. But as I went through that, my body really started changing, and I went to a naturopath that I still see, and I'm definitely cannot do gluten anymore. My allergies that I'd had my entire adult life disappeared within 6 weeks of taking gluten out. I've been on meds for them forever, and I don't need them anymore. So now everything I create is gluten-free, plant-based, and just, I really focus on whole foods. I'm not anti things like, plant, meat replacements and cheese replacements. And we do use those, in our everyday lives sporadically, sprinkled in, but I love focusing on whole foods and showing people that you can eat a very delicious but simple plant-based meal. In fact, I have a post coming out in the next month or so with a list of easy plant-based meals from stuff at Trader Joe's.
Love it.
Things I put together. Yeah.
We've been talking a lot, just like in my community, because I feel like, I call it the COVID blanket. So I feel like whatever's going on. So you have seasonal allergies, but we've also had COVID over our heads for a while. So it's like everything is a little harder. And so sometimes we just have like a teaspoon of energy left to make a dinner. And so it's great if you peel the butternut squash yourself and cut it up. It is equally fine if you buy some that's already cut up in the freezer, or the like Trader Joe's refrigerated section.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. People think that some things are somehow more pure or better, or I'm a better person because I peeled the butternut squash myself. And it's like, no. If you like it, peeling the butternut squash, buying that is probably going to be cheaper. So it's always, for me, a lot of times it's, do you have more time or money at this point in your life?
Well, and I'll tell you, I'll give you one little sneak peek to something we make every single week, because my third son is my, I guess, delicate flower when it comes to food. He is very odd. He'll eat, the follow your heart sliced cheese. He'll eat the follow your heart sliced cheese. My other two boys, well, one of them kind of likes it. My second son won't eat any dairy-free cheese whatsoever. So whatever, he can do him. But my third one will eat the cold follow your heart sliced cheese and thinks it's absolutely amazing, but won't touch a bowl of pasta. I'm like, cuckoo, whatever. But he will eat tacos for every day. If of his life, he would eat tacos. So we always have to have tacos once a week. So Trader Joe's sells riced cauliflower in the freezer section and those prepackaged lentils in the refrigerated section. They're just lentils and salt. That's it. They're cooked in a vacuum seal. They also have taco seasoning. What I do is you can chop onion or skip it, but I chop onion and I saute onion. I put in the frozen riced cauliflower and the lentils and the taco seasoning, and that creates a taco meat. And it takes 10 minutes. It's all ready for you. It's super easy, super flavorful. And we use it for tacos, and then we'll do a taco salad. And then you can use it for all the things. So that's like one little sneak peek of a quick and easy meal that is super versatile, and you don't have to spend hours at the stove.
I love that. And one thing I like to add too, because sometimes I'm being lazy and sometimes I'm not about the onion thing, but onion powder, don't forget, because some people, I feel like it's been one of my missions to explain that onion powder and garlic powder are not chemical weirdness. It's literally sliced onion, dehydrated, ground into a spice grinder. Yep. So, and like if you get any smoothie blends or things like that with greens, they're greens dehydrated and, powdered in like a spice grinder. Hint, you could do them at home, but you don't have to. You can buy cheap onion powder, and if you're doing something in slow cooker, because I found out with my slow cooker books, people get angry when you ask them to saute something before they use their slow cooker. It's not a nice look. But you can also, in your slow cooker, cook up a whole bunch of onions slowly all day and put them in the freezer in about the sections that you would use. So that's another thing you can do. But I did it last night. Last night I made myself like a taco blend with like some frozen peppers. I had a new pea protein chicken I was trying to see if I want to tell you guys about or not. It was pretty good. It had some taco seasonings in there. I added some onion powder, garlic powder, and some minced kale, and it was like 3 minutes later. Yeah. So I think that's beautiful, and I love that. I'm going to come and just read a few of the comments real quick, and then Jackie says her husband is second-generation Greek, because I know you don't, Sophia doesn't see them when I'm popping them up, and so Lydia and Apple and Joanne and Marilyn, and I think, and Facebook user who I don't know who you are, I'm sorry, it could be Mia. I just see Facebook user and a kissy face. So I'm guessing that's how far I'm pushing this guess. And Apple was saying something that's really cool too. Joanne first said it's a wonderful story about how you became vegan and plant-based, and she really appreciates that. Apple thinks your Instagram is spectacular, and everybody should go and check that out because she has some beautiful photography. And Apple said, let's leave morality out of our food choices. And meant by that, I knew what she meant by that, which was when saying, I
agree.
Like, we've talked about this before. It's like you can't be a gold star vegan. Some people, maybe you never ate meat your entire lives. Okay, great. But most of the people that are being super picky about this, that, or the other are not these gold star people. And Apple said, I meant leave the morality out of our food choices. I knew you didn't mean like, don't be vegan, because I know you. Totally. I know you very well with that. And Apple also says when the pandemic hit, I ate variations of mac and cheese for more than a year. All good. Absolutely. And the thing is,
gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly. And you can take some frozen broccoli and throw it in there at the end of that water boiling or other things. So whatever you can do. And Apple says she's really digging this conversation today. Oh, Sylvia, it's awesome to see you from Largo, Florida. All right, I think we're caught up on that. Do you want to keep talking? I would love for you to show us how to make your ranch,
Yes.
And another thing I was going to see if you would do is maybe give us some of your salad tips as you're doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and give you full screen, and I probably will interrupt you some.
Interrupt all you want. Well, I was going to say, first of all, thank you so much for your kind words about my Instagram. And I actually am embarking in a new chapter now. Just 2 months ago, I started a year-long food photography mentorship program. And I am really starting to focus on my food photography and hope to get into a little bit of a commercial food photography world as well. So I'm really focusing on that a lot, just because I also just want to show that like food, you eat with our eyes, but it's still delicious. And people think, people say to me like, well, what do you eat? I'm like, well, the question is more, what don't I eat? Because you can eat absolutely anything. And this ranch, it's funny that you mentioned this, but my second son, like he lives and breathes for this ranch. It's so funny. He'll try ranch, both dairy and non-dairy ranch other places. And he's like, nope, not as good as mom's. If I put this ranch out, he will dip anything into it. He doesn't like cucumbers. Guess how he eats cucumbers? With this ranch.
I love that.
I actually created this ranch for my cookbook that I released in 2017. So it is
and you guys, cookbook. That was veggie burgers and burritos. Hold up the cover for a little bit longer.
Vegan
burgers and burritos. Sorry. And you guys can get that on Amazon.com, and I'll come back and put a link to that. I don't think I have a link to it now.
The ranch is in here. The book is different flavored burgers, different takes on burritos, sauces, and then a few sides. But the ranch is also on my website. So it was so good that it was one of the recipes. I was able to take a few recipes and put, sorry, I have 2 giant crows mating in front of my window right now.
Just don't show the children. I'm pretty sure I linked to the ranch dressing. I think that you gave me that link. So you do have the link to the recipe. So feel free to write things down or just enjoy the happy banter and perhaps some crow noises.
Yes, just enjoy, and it's on the website, so you can get it. But when I was creating, I love ranch. My whole family loves ranch. So when I was creating this, I wanted something that was versatile, that we could use all the time, that went with a lot of things. And ranch is kind of one of those things for me. I make a sauce. One of my extra tips is every week, I like to make 1 or 2 sauces and have them in my fridge to use for dips, dressings, spreads on sandwiches and wraps, whatever it is. And if it's ready in there, you'll eat it. And it really takes 5 minutes to make. So it's not it actually takes me longer to wash the blender than it does to make the sauce. So it's not hard to do. And it's great to have because you're starving and you want to eat something that is like nutritious. Then you can grab some veggies and dip and crackers in this ranch, and it's awesome. But the key is with ranch, I bought tons of different dairy ranches at the store when I was creating this. And every step of the way, I would taste and I would taste. And I wanted it to have that same flavor, that like delicious flavor. I didn't want this to be a ranch that was almost as good. I wanted this to be a ranch actually that was better. So I spent a lot of money with other ranches, all the ones that people said, oh, this is the best ranch, Hidden Valley, this fresh one, this, my favorite. So this ranch is obviously cashew based because in my opinion, cashews make the best dairy free. Now, if you cannot have nuts, there are other options. If you can't have nuts, I would say that you're not used to using cashews. So the other options, while for people that are used to it, may not be as great for us. If you're not used to nuts, it totally works. So you could do multiple things, and I've had people try a little bit of everything. You could use silken tofu and do this. You'd have to play a little bit. I would suggest not putting as much of the milk base, just because of the consistency. I don't know, the nuts need much more milk. And then toy with the tang of it, and I'll get to that in a second, but that could work. I know some people have tried like sunflower seeds, but again, sunflower has kind of the flavor comes through. So you kind of have to play with that a little bit. I've also had I have another dip that uses a little bit of white beans with the cashews. So there's lots of ways you can create that. But if you can have nuts, cashews is amazing. So I use that. I don't soak them because I have a high-speed blender. But if you don't, I have actually a great tip for you. Soaking them is great and all. However, my tip is something that I had to do. I was on a brand trip once and I had to create my creamy sauce. And when I got there, they told me that I wouldn't have a Vitamix. And I'm like, wait a second, what? What do you mean? I need a Vitamix to create this creamy sauce. And I was serving it to all these people that were not plant-based. So I kind of panicked. And then I went to some of my friendship, my blogger people, friends, and I said, what am I going to do? And I saw these suggestions. And one that came out to me was taking dry cashews and grinding them in a coffee grinder. Coffee grinders, you can get them for super cheap on Amazon, like under $20. And if you grind the powder dry, not soaked, and you put it in a regular blender, it will give you the same consistency. The other option is PB2 is a powdered peanut butter brand. They have powdered cashew butter. And I have used that because that works as well if you don't have a high-speed blender. So if you don't have one, don't worry. It's possible to get a creamy consistency.
The idea of putting it into a spice grinder, because I have not done that. What I've done before is I've just put some water and like stuck them on the stove for a little bit and let them soak that way. But I love that idea because I know actually Joanne and Jackie have your cookbook already, by the way. And
awesome.
One anti-venom, who I love, it's anti like anti-bee, one anti-venom, I don't know why, I just dig that so much, is catching us on her lunch break. So I love that idea. So Joanne has been buying some cashew powder, so I think I'm going to try it. In my community, we make our own, well, some of us make, you have the option to make. I guess that's a better way to put it, because I'm big on having a spice grinder because I make tomato powder and jalapeno powder and mushroom powder, all these things that are super, like I use the stems off my giant shiitakes from the Chinese market that are too tough to use in something, and I dehydrate them and turn it into magic-free mushroom powder.
I love it.
Oh, and Facebook user says maybe try cashew butter too if you didn't have a Vitamix. And if you had cashew butter, that would work.
Yes, just the only thing with the cashew butter, you have to be careful because sometimes the cashews used in cashew butter are roasted and it's going to give you a different flavor. So you want to make sure that it's raw and not roasted, because roasted cashews will definitely give you a little bit of a different flavor. But so the base is cashews. So I'm going to put those in my blender. And then I use plant-based milk as the base. Some of my sauces, I use water. But for this, I like the milk because when I tested 2 different ways. Water still would work, but the milk kind of gives you just a little bit of a hint of extra creaminess. Any milk will do. Be careful with things like coconut that have that extra flavor. Cashew milk is kind of that, or almond milk is kind of our standard. But there's also actually, my sister just started using, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Not milk, NOT milk. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of it. I haven't tried it yet. What do you think?
I tried it. It's insane. I tried it. We were in actually La Quinta this past weekend with my entire family for Mother's Day, and my sister brought some. It tastes like milk. It's crazy. Like it's really weird. I was like, oh wow. She used it to make me this like adaptogenic coffee thing, and I was pretty impressed, I have to say.
What's the main ingredient, or what are some? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember now. I want to say, gosh, I don't remember now.
It's okay. I can go look it up because I've been interested, and I may need to go to the store later today, so I may check it out.
Yeah, it's good. It only has 3 grams of sugar, and the sweetness is a combination of sugar, but also pineapple juice. So to reduce that, so they put a little bit of it there to get that real milk kind of touch of sweetness that milk has. It's interesting. It's really good, and it works really well. My sister's been using it to make homemade ice cream, and she said it works really well for things like that. So that's an option. But then we put milk in. And the next thing when it comes to ranch, and when I was creating it, was the tang. So we know that ranch has a signature tang to it. And whenever I try and recreate something, I usually taste the real thing, and I close my eyes and I kind of ask myself, what are the flavors that I'm looking for? I don't like to recreate ingredient per ingredient necessarily. It's more that flavor, and ranch is salty and tangy. And so I tried a bunch of different things, and we know that vinegar has a good tang. For my ranch, I use white distilled vinegar. And the reason I use the white and not the apple cider or another kind of vinegar is because white distilled vinegar has a very sharp tangness to it, where apple cider has tang, but it's more of an underlining sweetness and dullness. It's not as sharp and tangy as this. So that's what I use in my ranch. You can use apple cider, just know it won't be 100% the same. And this is just, it's perfection. And then I also use a combination of lemon. I liked it better with the combination of the both versus one or the other. So I use a combination of both of those. And I pre-measured everything just to make it easy. We're gonna put that in there. Now
Joanne is asking, and I'll find this out for you, Joanne, was the Not Milk made by Silk or someone else? Do you remember?
No, it's the brand. It's called Not Milk is the brand. It's
okay.
The brand called Not Milk. If you look it up, that's their brand. It's not Silk. It's like a separate altogether brand.
Got it.
And it comes in a carton, and it's a plain looking carton. It's very simple, minimalistic look to it. So it's pretty cool. So when it comes to the ranch, we obviously have spices, but we're not putting those in yet because I've done it before accidentally. If you blend it all with all the spices, you don't get to see all the cute little flecks, and it's also really, really ugly. So
flecks are magic. Flecks are like your own little mini garnish inside the sauce.
Yes. And it just makes it look like real ranch. So we blend this. You can also blend with the salt first, but I actually put the salt in the spice mix, so I'm not going to put the salt in. So we're going to blend this until super creamy. So it's going to get loud. I don't know if you want to mute me or not.
I'll mute you, and I'll just chat for a minute. And actually, I can even look up to the side. I'm just the faceless voice right now. I'm going to see if I can look up Not Milk on my other computer and see if I can get those ingredients. Oh, Anti-Venom already did that. You're so sweet. Thank you. Water, sunflower oil, pea protein. So it is a pea protein milk, kind of like Ripple is. The ingredients in order. So the sunflower oil, much like Oatly, like I love full fat Oatly, like it is magic, but it has more oil in it. And so this does have some more oil and pea protein. So those of you who are whole food plant-based, no oil, but I see less than 2% of sugar, pineapple juice, dipotassium phosphate, calcium carbonate, gel and gum, acedia, I don't even know what that is, gum, salt, and something else. So I think it may not pass everybody's test, but it just kind of depends. And I'm going to put you back on now.
Yep. All right. Yes, it is pea protein, but it's very different than Ripple. It's not as thick. It has the same consistency as regular milk. But yes, the oil, unfortunately, just like with oat milk, the oil is what makes it creamy. And so that's what makes it. And I know if you love, Kathy, the full fat Oatly, have you ever tried the full fat, oh my gosh, I'm blanking now on the name. I'll think of it, but oh my gosh, it tastes like cream. It's insane.
One of the things, and I did this, I think it was last week or the week before, so I made a homemade oat milk, because one of the reasons people don't like homemade oat milk is because it separates and it's not thick like that. I actually grind in some chia seeds, with the water, then add the oats and do
good
it.
idea.
And it actually I made a strawberry one and it even stayed without separating it at all for like 4 days.
Well, you know what just came out on my website is I ventured into, I was doing some searching for just different ideas. Have you heard of potato milk yet?
I have, and that's something that's on my to-do list for the potato people.
I just published a potato milk on my website. And I played around a lot with it. You do have to mix it with almonds to get that neutral flavor because just potato milk tastes too much like potatoes. But I used, instead of almonds, I actually used almond flour to make it so you didn't really have to strain it too much. Yeah, I actually didn't strain it at all. I was fine, and it was actually really creamy and it turned out really good. So give it a shot. It's good. Okay, so this is ready to add the spices. I'm going to try and show you guys. So this is the consistency of it out of the blender. It's
perfect.
Yeah, and it thickens up in the fridge. So you have to make sure that if you want it, this is the perfect consistency as a dressing, like a thicker dressing, like a real ranch, like a thicker ranch. If you want it more of a dip, you want to like decrease the liquid a little bit. If you want it more of like really like thinner, you want to up it. But this, the way it is when it gets cold, it'll thicken a little bit. So it's perfect, like thick ranch type dressing.
Yeah.
So I experimented with lots of different spices when I created this, and I landed on 7 spices in my mix for ranch. And this isn't a fresh herb ranch. I'll tell you in a little bit about how I changed things up, but I wanted this to be dried herbs because I wanted it like a traditional store-bought type ranch dressing, not like a bougie fresh herb type ranch dressing, because I believe those are very different. So the ingredients that I landed on, in order, I think this is the order of most to least, but parsley, dried parsley, that's the largest ingredient I use. And then I do garlic powder and minced onion. I do both of those. And I also do, after the minced onion, I do onion powder, but I like to have both in there because I think that they both contribute a little bit of something. The little bit of minced onion, I feel like minced onion has a little bit of a different flavor than onion powder, but it also kind of gives a little bit of texture into it, which I really like. So I use both. And then dill weed, because I love ranch with dill because it's delicious. My husband is anti-dill, but he does love my ranch. So that'll tell you, if you don't like dill, you're still going to love it.
Most people don't know that there's dill in ranch.
Yes, I know.
Because you don't, everywhere else we taste dill, it's usually the predominant flavor, but somehow it blends in with this.
Yes, totally. A little bit of black pepper. And then my last secret to the tang and sharpness of ranch is just a touch of mustard powder. So mustard powder is like, it has this like a little bit of bitterness, sharpness to it, but just like it's an 1/8 teaspoon in this. So it gives it just that finish off the end of the tanginess. So I pre-mix those. So I'm going to put those all in. And then all we have to do is pulse it a few times. You don't want to blend it because you want to make sure that when you, before you add the spices, that your sauce is creamy enough and you don't have to blend it anymore, because once you blend it, it'll be ugly. So we're just going to pulse this a few times. Oh, I see my salt is sticking on the side. You know how sometimes
that happens to me too if I'm doing something it's kind of annoying. Now I'm going to go back while you're doing that, and a couple of questions is, one, anti-venom said, how much chia seed do I use? I use about a 1/2 teaspoon to 3 to 4 cups of milk. And Joanne is giving us the list of ingredients, which is taking her 3 comments for the Silk Next milk. So it's got oat milk, coconut oil, soy protein isolate, chicory root extract, cane sugar, oh my God, sunflower oil, vitamin and mineral blend, vitamin B2, sea salt, locust bean gum, gelum gum, sunflower lecithin, soy lecithin, natural flavor. So yeah, there can be a lot of ingredients in other milks, and you can always make your own. One anti-venom says, wow, that's quite the list. And Karen said her husband made hemp milk this week, and she likes it better than his almond milk. She likes it better than his almond milk. It's creamier. And back to you, Sophia.
All right. Well, this is it. We've got it. So I will usually store it. I have a salad dressing jar that I'm obsessed with jars, by the way. If you were to look at my prop cabinet for my photography, there's a lot of jars. I might have a problem. I do not want an intervention though. So I have a really pretty, just old school, salad dressing jar that, I got online that was a little bit antique looking. I love it. But I made my husband this Greek dressing. And so it's in my fridge already with my Greek dressing. So I'm just going to use this. But I basically just pour it in. And then I'm going to show you, I have a little bit left that I like to use. I like to separate it into two. And I'll tell you why in just a second.
Oh, good. You're getting the spatula, aren't you? I'm spatula obsessed because you can't leave any of that goodness. Yeah, don't leave the goodness in the blender.
Of course not. Absolutely not. You cannot. This ranch especially. Delicious. My son is going to be so excited when he gets back home today from school and sees I made ranch. But let me show you what I do with the extra one. Use this one. I like to add a little bit of hot sauce in mine. So I do 2 different jars, a bigger one for my kids and husband, and a smaller one for me because I love hot sauce and I love hot sauce flavored ranch. So I simply put mine in here and then I don't measure it. I just put a bunch in there.
Looks like maybe a tablespoon for a half a cup.
I would just put, I like to mix, try, and then add more if I need to. Oh, perfect.
And Joanne thinks it looks beautiful. And so does one anti-venom, says it looks delicious and she wishes she had some for her broccoli right now.
Oh, so good. Yes. I actually have fresh broccoli that my mom gave me from her garden, so I am going to dip it in here. But it's perfect because the other thing is with the base of this ranch dressing, one thing I do sometimes is I make the base, I actually double it. I make the base and I double it. And then I take out half and then I use that half to make the ranch. So it would be like one of my ranch. The other half from that same base is I pour it into different jars and I switch up the spices so that we can keep it exciting. So if you pour it, you get a bunch of little glass jars, and these are just these little glass jars. I don't know if you've ever tried the Kalina. It's a coconut-based yogurt. It's my favorite dairy-free yogurt. It's called Kalina, Culina. And it comes in these little jars. And I love the yogurt because I can reuse their jars. So I have a huge collection of them. And then I pour the base into all these little jars, and then I experiment with spices, and I start with like 1/4 of a teaspoon of different spices. And you can make like so many different flavors. You can go from just like a simple garlic and smoked paprika to have like a smoky, smokiness to it. You can go and just any flavor you want really works. And so it's fun because you can experiment, and then you have all these different sauces for the week to use in so many different ways. And that's like another good salad tip, because if you make like kitchen sink salads where you just take whatever you have and dump it into salad, and you want to do that a couple nights in a row, all you have to do is switch up, take a little jar, a different flavor, and you feel like it's a new meal.
I think that's a great idea. I'm going to pull us both back up in here. And there's some great comments too. So Kathy said she's just coming in at the hot sauce. So that would be hard. She put hot sauce in the ranch dressing that she made homemade. And Joanne was like, spicy ranch, yay. And Nancy loved the addition of hot sauce. So did Karen. So hot sauce got you a lot of fans. And
I am a hot sauce obsessed person. I love hot sauces. So I do it for everything.
yeah, and it's kind of fun. I have a couple of different hot sauces I make. I'm actually growing like a bunch of different peppers that I haven't been growing, so I can make some. I've talked about this before. They have the jalapenos without the heat because Cheryl just can't take the heat. So I'm growing 3 plants so I can make her own jalapeno powder. Because jalapeno powder, jalapeno cilantro ranch would be awesome.
You can definitely add some fresh cilantro in there for sure. And that's the other thing is if you make the base and want to switch out some of these spices with fresh, like fresh parsley, add in some fresh cilantro, fresh dill, you totally can. I'd say about a teaspoon of dried is a tablespoon of fresh. I think that's the conversion. So just make sure you adjust or add more for extra flavor. And that's the best thing about, my sauces is you can take these bases and you can switch up. I mean, sometimes I actually have a dill sauce that's on my website that I love. My husband doesn't because he hates dill, but I love it. And so sometimes I will do the base and then I'll take half of it and make, put fresh dill. Fresh dill would be good with some smoked paprika, like a smoky dill would be delicious, and some extra lemon to get a little bit more of a lemon flavor.
Yeah, I can see a lot of different things we could do. And one of the things I do sometimes with ranch, if I'm like, oh, I want some ranch and I don't want to be bothered with anything, is I will use plain unsweetened vegan yogurt as the base.
Oh, yeah. Kalina, I'm telling you. Have you ever tried Kalina, Kathy?
I have, because they have a lavender, isn't it lavender blueberry is the one they have? I've never gotten their plain because if there's something lavender, rose, orange flower, I'm like all in already.
Their bourbon vanilla is insane.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. It's bourbon vanilla, and that's like, to me, it's dessert. So I take the bourbon vanilla, put a little, crush some plain sugar cookies, gluten-free sugar cookies, and some strawberries. And, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. But their plain tastes like Greek yogurt, like the real Greek yogurt. It's got that it's the tangiest, creamiest dairy-free yogurt I've ever had.
I'll have to try the plain then. I often use Forager. I mix around depending on what's on sale and what has the less ingredients in it. But I make it at home too. Yeah. I just haven't made it.
Kalina is expensive, I will say. It's not cheap. But this jar right here, it's because it's full fat coconut, it's very good for you with healthy fats. But because it's full fat coconut, you actually don't need a lot to feel satisfied. So a jar for me will last me 2 breakfasts. If I do half of the jar with granola and fruit and stuff, I actually am satisfied because it's full fat coconut.
That's awesome. Okay, so Kathy's saying, does ranch have avocado in it? I have yet to make my own dressing. I salivate every time I watch, but then get up and do it hasn't hit me yet. I eat a lot of boring food. So now I have on my website an avocado ranch. So that you're not using any kind of refined oils or, just an oil separated from things. So a lot of times I will use mashed avocado instead of oil in brownies, muffins, things like that. Because some people can't have avocado too, so that's a different story. But if you but it also in some dressings. So like in my ranch, it is a thickener, as well as adding some of that rich mouthfeel from the oil.
Awesome. Yeah, no, my ranch does not have avocados. The cashews give it the consistency it needs. But I could see where, actually, if you can't have nuts, you could do part silken tofu and part avocado.
Absolutely. And the thing there's so many ways you can do things, and it depends on kind of what your special needs are. And a lot of times for me, it's what's in my house at the time. I didn't have any yogurt. I might not have had any cashews, but I had an avocado and I was making ranch out of it. I could make ranch out of a roasted onion. I've done that as a base for people who I did it for Chef AJ who can't have beans, can't have avocados, nuts, or seeds. So I was like, let's roast an avocado. It made a nice thick base of it. Is it the same? No, of course not. But
potato, I use in my Alfredo recipe, I use potato as well, because a cooked potato also gives you a creamy, kind of thicker. So that, and another component is roasted cauliflower. I personally don't like steamed cauliflower in creamy sauces because I think the flavor comes through of it.
Yes.
But roasting it is good. There's a lot of options if you can't have something. And it's hard because if you can't have it, comparing the two is not fair because you're used to what you're used to. But if you can't have it, you don't have that other flavor. So experimenting with all these ideas, you'll probably find something you love.
Absolutely. And one of the things that was kind of interesting about the roasted onion, because then it actually becomes sweet. It doesn't have that sharp taste. So to put the sharp taste back in, I had to use onion and garlic powders. So it's always interesting when you get to play with things like that. So, but your ranch
roasting is amazing.
Amazing. Or even for me, I find like I have a cauliflower queso. I steam the vegetables very lightly in my Instant Pot, which helps me do it a little more intentionally.
Yes.
Because what happens is the cells in some of those, if they burst, and that's when the stinky flavor comes out.
Yeah.
So you have to undercook it a little bit. In roasting, I don't think you have, I think you have a larger margin than if you steam it to make them that way.
And I think roasting too, the heatness of the roast, it almost caramelizes it a little bit. And so that's where that sweetness kind of comes through. My children, I do sliced roasted radishes, and radishes are super sharp raw, but when you roast them, they turn sweet like candy. And my kids love roasted radishes.
Yeah.
So it caramelizes it. It just gives it the sweetness. It's delicious. I could eat a plate of roasted vegetables dipped in ranch. Oh, that sounds good. I'm hungry.
I haven't had lunch yet. It's almost 2:00 my time, so it's about time to eat. So I was thinking a salad maybe with some ranch or something like that.
Yes, definitely.
It's been such a pleasure having you on, and thank you so much for sharing so much information and giving us all these great tips and tricks. Hopefully,
absolutely. Thanks for just having me. It's so fun. I love connecting with you. Kathy is one of my favorite people, you guys.
Aw, you're so sweet. Well, hopefully you'll come back on again. So I'm planting that seed, and we can do some more fun stuff together. And you guys make sure that you're following. It's Veggies Don't Bite on Instagram as well, right? Veggies Don't Bite. She's branded the way she should be, so you can find her.
Thank you.
Search Kathy Hester, and eventually I'll remember what I did where. So Kathy's into the jalapeno cilantro ranch as well. Oh, Jackie wanted to know that she hasn't found the vegan, is it Kalina yogurt? Is that the one?
Yes.
Kalina is how you say it. Okay. And does it have a coconut taste is what she wants to know.
I'm going to actually grab it for you so you can see it.
And while you're doing that, I'll go through some. Apple says thank you to both of us. And Joanne says that she likes the roasted onion cream sauce. Especially a lot of people who do a Sophis diet, which is Chef AJ's version of whole food plant-based, do that. And Jackie says it's been a great chat. Okay, let's hear it. Did you taste it?
Okay, so here is the Kalina. This is the plain and simple one. Oops, there it is. And this is the bourbon vanilla.
Ooh.
So I've been eating this for years, actually, and I love them. One of the reasons I love them is their ingredients. Their ingredients are organic, hand-chucked coconut, water, agar, and probiotics. That's it. That's cool. All that's in there. So that my kids also really love the vanilla, not silk. What's the other one? Gosh, my brain is.
Forager?
No, So Delicious. They love the vanilla So Delicious. So I always get a big thing of that for them because these are, expensive, but I always have these on hand. I love the fact that they have very few ingredients. And while they are expensive, we don't eat them all day, every day. And so I kind of balance. I would say, so the bourbon vanilla, the bourbon and the vanilla flavor come out and masks the coconut. I don't think it's super, super heavy on the coconut. There's definite coconut undertones because it is coconut based. But the tang of this, to me, of the plain, I grew up I remember I'm Greek, and I grew up eating real Greek yogurt. And then when I go to Greece, I can eat regular Greek yogurt without any issues dietary. Like dairy does not agree with me, but in Greece I can. And I love it. I grew up literally on Greek yogurt as plain. Like that's what we would eat, and we would eat it with savory foods, like my stuffed peppers, like my mom would have it on the side. So this is the closest that I can find. And there's some coconut undertones, but the tang of it it's so good. You have to try it once.
Because when I think it was So Delicious had a Greek yogurt and Kite Hill had a Greek yogurt. I didn't really care for either one of them because Greek yogurt and goat cheese were my last two things to go when I transitioned from being vegetarian to vegan. So I'm with you on that. And CJ from Scotland in the UK said it's been fun and thanks both of us. Linda said that she never likes traditional ranch, but she's going to try yours because it sounds better. And you know what? If you might be able to pinpoint that one ingredient that you don't usually like from ranch and leave it out too. Yeah. My friends that were staying, which I think is hilarious, my friend Dawn is like, no white sauces. It's white. And I'm like, I don't understand. I love her, but I don't understand. I did make a tofu mayo with silken tofu, apple cider vinegar, and lemon zest, and she ate that. She decided that was okay. And I don't know why. And Joanne likes that it's in a glass jar. And I do get a little bit of a collecting glass jar problems. Like I get sometimes, have you gotten the wee non-dairy?
Yes, I have those too, Kathy.
I think I have one over here. And so eventually Cheryl takes some of them to the recyclers. I wish I had an easy top for those.
Yes, the wee and this one comes with a top. That's why it's so great.
That's worth the extra $2 probably right there.
And a little hint for the glass jars, because I will collect, and then I will email the school that my kids go to. The teachers love them to store buttons and glitter and things like that. So if you ever have like a school connection or a teacher connection, offer that, because I have the teachers and they're great for mixing paint for kids too.
That's a great idea. I love that. And Apple was saying Soy Good, and I think it went back when it was So Delicious was the brand that you get your kids. Delicious.
My kids love the vanilla So Delicious yogurt as well. I get like a big one. I mean, they like this one too, but they can't appreciate the refinedness of it. So
then it's the same thing. I wouldn't give Cheryl my fancy yogurt either. And Marilyn came in late and just realized who you are, Sophia, and she's been following you since one of the bundles, which is not surprising. And Karen says, I hope I can find the yogurt near me. I love the simple ingredients and enjoyed the live chat. And Joanne says that she makes vegan Greek yogurt for Paul every week. He lives for it. That's her husband. Awesome. And then Jackie says, I wasn't a fan of ranch before, but I've enjoyed some of the plant-based recipes, which is very interesting. And we're all just kind of evolving. So some things maybe we didn't like before that sounded real good in the pre-vegan world or pre-plant-based world. Some things, like I was never a meatloaf person growing up, but I love a lentil loaf.
Kathy. I hated meatloaf. Well, first of all, I grew up Greek, and so I never ate those Americanized type foods. And so when I became an adult and someone told me about meatloaf, I'm like, ew, you mean it's like a loaf of bread, but it's meat? Why would I ever eat that? That's disgusting. But this was when I made meat, but just the idea of it, I was like, ew, that's weird. But a lentil, I love a good, and I make a good one too. It's so funny that, because here's the thing, when people ask oh, well, is it good if it's plant-based? I'm like, no, it's better, actually.
Yeah, and I like that too.
There's things that I'm like, it's better.
Well, and I really wanted you to talk about your ranch for a couple of reasons. One, because it's spring, it's much easier to eat salad. It's great to eat a salad every day, all throughout the year, and it is certainly obtainable. But it's so easy. So if you've gotten out of the habit in the spring, it's so easy to slip it back into it through the summer when all the fresh veggies are coming out.
And I have another little hint on my website. I have mason jar salads. And I talk about how you can prep a mason jar salad, because I'm super crazy about wilty vegetables. But what you do is I put the ranch at the very bottom, of the jar, and then I put beans on top of it.
Yeah.
Because beans don't get mushy. And then I put the veggies. And so when I'm ready, the morning, like maybe like half an hour or so before I'm going to grab the salad. And I prep these when I know I'm going to be busy and I want to eat something, nutritious. I go in the fridge and I turn it upside down, and then it starts to drizzle through. And then it's ready. Like, it's easier that way to get that all mixed up.
I love that. I love that. And I'm doing for Kathy's Cooking Club, which if you guys are interested, you can go to kathyhester.podia, Podia.com, and you can buy a single class or join Kathy's Cooking Club. A single class of mine is $35. If you join Kathy's Cooking Club for $50, you get 2 classes every month, and all the other classes, which I think I'm over 50 now. And my classes are not like 15 minutes long. They're like 2 to 3 hours long. So there's lots to do. But this on Thursday, which is not tomorrow, I don't know what day it is, maybe ever. We're going to be doing like how to make salads filling and fun. So we're going to talk about the toppings. We're going to talk about dressings. We're going to roast some vegetables up. We're going to talk about flavors and things. And I will link to Sophia's recipe too in the recipe document, so you guys can get that too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And let's think about something else you want to do. If you wanted to do something especially that's Greek that you veganized, that you grew up on, I would be so into it.
I could do that. Another option is sharing with people about baked goods, because I think people think when you do vegan and gluten-free baked goods, they're not as good as traditional versions. And I will tell you that is incorrect. In fact, I'm developing a coffee cake recipe right now that's vegan and gluten-free, and I have served it to multiple neighbors and friends that are like beyond how it's even possible that it tastes that way.
Oh, cool.
And my baked goods are mostly like, I usually use all whole foods and stuff as well for those. I mean, I'll use sugar and, real desserts and stuff, but I don't use any like butter or oil. So
okay. Because usually, the oil makes it a little more difficult. It's like any one of those is easy. And when you put them all together, then it becomes a little bit more complicated. Oh, Joanne wants vegan egg lemon soup. And Jackie wants spanakopita, gyros, or
I have
baklava.
spanakopita. I have all 3 of those on my website, Joanne. I have my spanakopita is it's absolutely incredible. And I'll tell you the story. My mom was known for her spanakopita growing up. In fact, my friends asked for a sheet of it for their birthdays every year because that's how much they liked it. And so my kids grew up eating her spanakopita. And eventually I was like, I need to develop a vegan version. So I brought her to my house, and side by side, I created a dairy-free spanakopita. Unfortunately, the gluten-free part is harder. However, what I do is I take the filling and brush use the cassava tortillas, the cassava ones, the gluten-free cassava ones, because those have a lighter flake to them. And I make it as pockets and I bake it that way. And that is great. It's my little cheat on my own. But the spanakopita that year for Christmas, because my mom makes a giant pan for Christmas, I asked my mom if I could do my version. So I did. And nobody had any idea. My kids, in fact, turned to me and said, Yaya makes the best spanakopita in the world. I wish you knew how to make good spanakopita. And inside, I was laughing so hard because only my mom and I knew that it was actually mine. And I'm telling you, if you need a vegan spanakopita, like, it's incredible. And I do have a baklava, which is my mom's, which is generally vegan. You just use maple syrup instead of honey. And then I do have gyros actually on my site as well. I have a version. It's tempeh that I use, but then on the notes, I talk about how I sometimes use thinly sliced portobellos as well.
That sounds really delicious. Well, we'll all be going over to veggiesdon'tbite.com. There's no apostrophe because URLs don't work that way. So just remember, I type it in naturally sometimes, but if you typed in veggies space, don't space, bite, Google will take you where you need to be. Yes. So don't worry.
Google's smart like that.
At least it's smart about some things. I love Google. I have a love-hate relationship with Google, and Google pretty much owns me.
Kathy.
right? So I
It
have to
owns
love.
all of us, Kathy. Yes, we have to follow its rules. It's very stringent rules.
It's very, very true. Well, thank you so much for getting up early, taking time out of your day, and coming and being with
Absolutely.
us, because it was just wonderful.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thanks everybody for being here.
And subscribe to our newsletter. Go to Amazon and look up the book, and we'll go have a lot of fun eating Sophia's food. And I'll see you guys next week.